Howdy, this is Ellen Weatherholt here in the Children's Discovery Garden. We are doing a little bit of a check-in because we did some videos right after that really big freeze in February. And so we're checking back in with some of our plants that experienced quite significant freeze damage. So right here next to me is a Danae racemosa, which is a type of ruscus. And right in front of me is an epimedium, which is a beautiful hardy ground cover. And also you'll see some of the little purple flowers in front. Those are a still bee. And so what our check-in I'm going to talk about is these Danae racemosa look fantastic. However, I will say that in the first video, we talked about how good the leaves look and how healthy they looked after the freeze. Turns out all of those stalks completely blanched. We cut them all back, and this is this year's flush from this plant. So as you can see, plant is doing fine. However, the leaves that we were seeing right after the freeze, they're all gone. We've cut them all away and they're in the compost pile. So the plant is just fine. It's had another flush. It'll live another year. The epimedium was also quite burned, but its spring flush came out. It looks great. It came out no worse for wear, and our flowers are blooming too. So I would say that this area actually came out pretty well, and we are glad to report on that. Howdy, Ellen again here in the Children's Discovery Garden. So we are at another one of our winter frost spots. And as you can see next to me, this Alyssium is doing fantastic. So when we first visited here, the only leaves that were alive on this evergreen shrub were the ones that were within 4 inches of the ground. So they were probably covered with snow and ice so that they were spared from the freeze. But as you can see, we have lots of beautiful, vigorous growth. What we're gonna do to help this plant is to give it a little bit of a low dose fertilizer, something like a plant tone with very low numbers like 444, as in the fertilizer concentration. The only thing we might do for this plant is trim off some of these dead limbs. You can see where the dead ones are because they have that much darker color. The live ones are a much brighter green. So that might be the only thing we do for this. It actually otherwise looks really good, and so this is definitely going to the top of our list as far as a tough, wonderful plant for this part of the country. And then also you can see the tree behind me. This is one of our aquatic, it's either a walnut or a hickory, don't know which, you'd have to Google it, Caria aquatica. And as you can see, it's full of leaves, it's happy, it's blooming. All of our deciduous things, anything that loses its leaves in the winter and goes dormant, they all came through the freeze like champs. So this deciduous tree that I'm standing underneath looks great. So this combo here, they came out of the freeze okay. I'm happy to report that. So we are at another spot of our winter damage assessment. And right next to me here, we've got a beautiful little crepe myrtle. This is one of our Lagerstromia's purple cows. And as you can see, it's quite small. It was probably about this high last year, but all of the growth above the ground froze. So we cut it back, it's flushing out nicely. I would say that that one's gonna be just fine. So we're glad to see it back. And then behind me, you'll see this beautiful, beautiful Mahonia. So as you can see, this kind of scraggly, dead looking thing, there's actually some beautiful leaves right at the base. And so this is on our list of things. We're gonna cut it back to the base and it'll resprout just like that crepe myrtle did, but these grow quite a bit slower. So we'll just cut it back. It's a really nice part of our collection, so we're just gonna let it grow again. And in the meantime, you know, we just take out one at a time. We're working our way through these freeze damages. And then right here next to me, we have a beautiful Buddleia. It is looking great. We didn't know how these would fare because they're marginally hardy when it gets too cold, but you know, it looks fine. It's got flower buds on it. It's doing great. So one more success story from our garden. And then right here in front of us, we have what's left of our osmanthus hedge. So these shrubs were hit very hard by the frost. And as you can see, we have cut them back so that the new growth can take over. So This is our summer version of the winter frost. Howdy. So this is a hardy palm, and it actually was harvested from seeds found in southeastern Oklahoma. So it is a native plant, believe it or not. We have a native palm. And as you can see here, there's a very distinct line which parts of the plant were out of the earth during the freeze. So as you can see, the parts that were out in the air were definitely frozen, but the rest of the plant emerged this spring and it looks great. So even our palms are looking really good, and we will continue to monitor them this summer. So who knows, but signs are good that they're doing fine. This is a bloom spike. It's got new leaves coming out. So I would say that these palms did just fine, and we are glad to see these signs of life after a major freeze.